Okay, so you know that feeling, right? That deadline looming, and you've got that blank page staring back at you. And
Hmm.
suddenly, like, reorganizing your sock drawer seems like the most productive thing you could possibly be doing with your time.
Oh, yeah,
We've all been there.
absolutely.
But what if there was a way to make writing feel less like climbing a mountain and more like actually enjoying the journey?
Well, and what I think is so fascinating is that procrastination often really stems from fear, not laziness.
Oh, okay.
Fear of failure, fear of judgment. That blank page can be really daunting.
You're telling me. So, in this deep dive, we're exploring a system that helped one sociologist publish over 58 books.
It's incredible.
Talk about conquering that fear. We're taking cues from Niklas Luhmann and his unique approach to note taking, as explained in How to Take Smart Notes by nke Ahrens. 58 books. I can barely keep my grocery list straight. What's the secret?
Well, Ahrens argues it wasn't superhuman ability, but a system.
Okay.
And he makes a really compelling case that most of us are stuck using these study methods that are actually flawed.
Right.
Highlighting, rereading, cramming.
Yeah, we've all been there.
We've all been there, but they just create this illusion of progress.
Right. It's like eating a bag of chips and wondering why you're not like energized.
Gotcha.
You know?
Exactly.
It's all about the quality of the input.
Right.
So how did Luhmann's system work? Was he spending every waking hour writing?
Actually, it was the opposite of that.
Okay.
The beauty of it is its simplicity.
Okay.
Luhmann called it the slip box.
Okay.
And at its core is this idea that every single note you take is in service of your writing.
Interesting.
Writing I as thinking.
Okay. I have to admit, when I first heard about the slip box, I thought, great, another complicated system.
Right.
But you're saying it's actually about simplifying things.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Think about it like the shipping container revolution.
Okay.
Before standardized containers, global trade was chaotic.
Yeah.
It was inefficient.
Right.
This simple act of standardization streamlined everything.
Okay.
The slip box aims to do the same for our ideas.
Okay, that's a metaphor I can get behind. No more drowning in a sea of unsorted thoughts.
Exactly.
So how does this slip box actually work? Walk me through it. So no more jumbled notes on sticky notes and random scraps of paper.
Right.
What does this beautifully organized slip box system look like?
Well, it's surprisingly simple, really.
Okay.
It all starts with capturing those fleeting thoughts.
Mm.
The ones that pop into your head while you're walking the dog or you're about to fall asleep.
Right.
Those are valuable. Luhmann called these fleeting notes.
Uh-huh. So that's what I do with all those voice memos on my phone.
Exactly.
But how do we keep them from getting lost in the abyss?
Think of it like instantly offloading that thought from your brain to a safe place.
Okay.
A voice memo,
Yeah.
a note on your phone, even a napkin.
Sure.
Anything to capture the essence before it vanishes.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah,
So we're capturing those sparks of brilliance.
exactly.
What's next?
Those fleeting notes are just the seeds.
Okay.
The next step is creating what Luhmann calls literature notes.
Okay, literature notes.
Okay.
Sounds straightforward enough,
Right.
but I'm guessing it's more than just jotting down the book title.
You got it. Imagine you're reading a fascinating article.
Okay.
Instead of highlighting, endlessly hoping something will stick,
Right.
you distill the key points into a concise note in your own words, of course.
So it's like I'm having a conversation with the author, pulling out the most important points.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this forces you to engage with the material on a much deeper level.
Right.
It's the difference between passively absorbing information and actively creating understanding.
Okay.
Plus, it combats that pesky confirmation bias.
Oh, yeah.
We all have a tendency to gravitate toward information that already aligns with our views.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're summarizing in your own words, you're forced to confront different perspectives.
That reminds me of the story in the book about Solomon Shereshevsky,
Yes.
the man who could remember everything.
Yes. Shereshevsky, an incredible case.
Right.
He could remember every detail, every conversation.
Right. Every single thing. But he couldn't distinguish the important from the trivial.
Exactly.
Right.
He was overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information.
He couldn't see the forest for the trees.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that our brains are actually wired for strategic forgetting.
Wow.
And this is where the real magic of the slip box begins.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
We've captured our fleeting thoughts. We've distilled our reading into literature notes.
Right.
What's the next step? What makes this a system and not just a really organized note-taking method?
Right.
So if our brains are already doing the strategic forgetting thing, where do those moments of insight come from? Those aha moments when the pieces suddenly click into place?
Right. It's a question that's fascinated thinkers for centuries.
For sure.
And Ahrens argues that those aha moments aren't as random as we might think.
Okay.
He points to examples like Darwin Kikule Watson and
Yeah.
Crick, all these brilliant minds who made these groundbreaking discoveries.
Right.
And none of them did it in a vacuum.
So you're saying those breakthroughs weren't just these magical bursts of genius.
Exactly. They were the culmination of years, sometimes decades, of deep immersion in their fields.
Wow.
They were constantly taking notes, making connections, allowing ideas to incubate in the back of their minds.
Right.
And when that right puzzle piece appeared, boom, the aha moment.
Okay, I'm starting to see where the slip box comes in here.
Right.
It's about creating that fertile ground for those connections to happen, right?
Precisely. Think of your slip box as an incubator for slow hunches, as Ahrens calls them.
Okay.
Each connection is a potential catalyst for a breakthrough.
Wow.
But here's the key. It's not just about amassing a ton of notes. It's about organizing them in a way that sparks those connections.
All right, so how do we actually do that? It's one thing to jot down notes, but how do I turn my slip box into this idea-generating machine?
That's where the real magic of the system comes in.
Okay.
Remember those literature notes we talked about?
Yes.
Instead of letting them just languish in isolation,
Yeah.
we give them a unique identifier, like a number, and start linking them together.
Based on what? Just whatever I feel like.
Well, there's a method to the madness.
Okay.
You link notes based on shared concepts, arguments, anything that resonates with your thinking. It could be a quote that supports an idea from another note, a counter-argument, or even just a tangential thought that you had.
Okay.
The beauty is you're creating this web of interconnected ideas.
It's not just a linear process, it's multidimensional.
Exactly.
Like building a galaxy of thoughts instead of just launching one rocket.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And the more notes you add, the denser and richer that galaxy becomes.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're seeing patterns and connections you never would have otherwise.
Right.
It's like those insights were hidden in plain sight, just waiting for the right connections to illuminate them.
This is all starting to sound really exciting, but let's be real. Changing habits is tough. I'm fantastic at buying notebooks I never use.
Tell me about it.
What advice would you give to someone just starting out with the slip box? How do we make this a sustainable practice?
You're preaching to the choir. The good news is you don't have to become Luhmann overnight.
Okay, good.
The key is to start small.
Okay.
Don't overwhelm yourself.
Right.
Ahrens suggests aiming for just one literature note per day.
One note a day.
One note a day.
I can handle that.
Exactly. It's about consistency, not intensity.
Okay.
Think of it like making small deposits into a savings account.
Okay.
Over time, those deposits compound, and suddenly you have something substantial.
You've got a system.
You've got a system, exactly.
Right.
The more notes you add to your slip box, the more connections you make, the more valuable it becomes.
So it's not about memorizing everything. It's about building a system that helps us think better, more creatively.
Precisely.
Yes.
And the best part is it's not just for academics or writers.
Right.
This system can be applied to any area of your life. Imagine using the slip box to improve your decision-making in business, to deepen your understanding of history, or even to navigate the complexities of your personal relationships.
That's incredible.
The possibilities are truly limitless.
It's like you're giving your brain an upgrade, no longer just storing information, but actively engaging with it, making connections, unlocking new levels of understanding.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe it'll even help us conquer that procrastination monster lurking under the bed.
No, that would be a truly valuable aha moment.
You said it. Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about, and more importantly, to actually start doing. One note at a time.
One note at a time. You've got this.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. But trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole world of knowledge waiting to be explored, one interconnected note at a time. So grab your notebooks, fire up those voice memos, and get ready to unlock your inner Luhmann. Until next time, happy note-taking.